What's going on YouTube? My name is Mike Huddy from Clover Trading, and today we're going to talk about pot stocks. And the question being, can you get high off trading pot stocks? Dive in to find out. So the first thing you have to know about trading pot stocks is this is a very cycle-based event. We've seen pot stocks go absolutely crazy, posting 1000% plus returns in very specific moments in the market, i.e. the cycle. What you have to understand is that pot stocks for the most part are terrible companies, especially stocks. They are not profitable, they need funding, and there's a ton of regulation in the way from them getting to A to B. So why do they move 1000%, and how do you time such a thing? Well, I've always had my eyes on election years, and here's why. In my experience since I've been trading, pot stocks love to run into big macro legislative news. When do we get big macro legislative news? Sometime around election, when one side of the party is trying to push a narrative and get voters on their side. A lot of this stuff ends up being a sell the news situation, but since these pot stocks are generally not good stocks, there's a ton of selling pressure, there's a dilutive presence in a lot of them become these beaten down stocks, posting very small market caps that have the ability to run because they are junk. And when junk starts to run, shorts start to get squeezed, and then the cycle continues. I find that pot stocks like to run in the presence of elections. And here we are, September 2023. I've been pounding the Clover room for months now saying, hey guys, election is on the verge. I'm looking at these pot stocks. They're down 99% off their highs. I wonder what piece of news is going to start the run and then where we go from there. Just last week or 2 weeks ago, we did get the first piece of legislative news, pretty much right on cue from 2020 September, when the pot stock started to run into that election year. Different news this time, so let's read it. The cannabis rescheduling recommendation, what it means and what's next. This is a great article that I ran through just to get an idea of what's going on. We'll read it very briefly. So what happened? The Department of Health and Human Services made a recommendation to the U.S. Drug Enforcement that cannabis can be moved from a Schedule 1 controlled substance to a Schedule 3 controlled substance under the Federal Controlled Substance Act. So they're rescheduling cannabis. What does that mean to us as just average everyday people reading this news? Well, I scrolled down to what could change. And the most important things that I read is, yeah, there can be some FDA changes, which could be very important. But what I like to see is the fact that people can invest and bring more money into these pot stocks with the rescheduling of this drug. So more liquidity potentially. Stocks can now uplist and fewer regulations. This one I really love, federal legislation momentum for legislation. So rescheduling could unstick legislation active on cannabis, such as the Safe Banking Act, the MORE Act, etc., etc. These are huge regulatory acts that have prevented cannabis stocks from really growing to what they can be. And now again, like, this news allows the opening for more and more legislation. That's exactly what I'm looking for running into an election year. Now again, most of this stuff becomes a sell the news situation. I've never seen in any type of momentum in the pot stocks in my 8-year career. When they do run 1000%, they always come back down to the lows so far. Now obviously that could change, nothing is forever, but I am not looking at these as some kind of investment. I'm looking at these as some kind of momentum that's going to run into the election year. We have a number of catalysts that could come. Also, we're in the right cycle. So I have my eyes on pot stocks. I've had my eyes on pot stocks for over a month now, and now it seems like everyone's going to start finding out about it because they have started to run on the backbone of this piece of news. Let's get into the charts, what the main runners are, and what we can potentially expect as we go through this momentum. So to answer the question, yes, you can get high off pot stocks. This is a chart of CGC, Canopy Growth, one of the main runners in the market reacting to this press release. Gonna zoom into the action. Here we are, September 14th. We have this really nice multi-week, multi-day breakout over 65 cents. Not more than 4 days later, we're up at the $1.70, $1.80 area, an amazing percent return. This stock is going to be on every trader's watch list at this point. It's had the big percent gain. It's had massive movement. It's had big volume. So that's going to put it on every trader's radar. But we've seen CGC run in the past. It is a trader favorite. If we go to the 10-year chart, remember the date, September 14th. we're going to zoom out. You know, it's uncanny, the resemblance to this run. We're going to zoom in to September 14th, 2020. So 3 years ago, we start a bit of a run right here. And at the end, towards the election, we have an amazing percent gain from October to February. It ran from roughly $14 all the way to $56. So lots of investors got high off this pot stock, for so to speak. And then the next one is ACB. ACB is also a trader favorite. We've seen this one run big in the past. Again, big percent gain, big volume, put it on every trader's radar, especially mine. We'll continue to watch this moving forward. Have we seen ACB run in the past? Well, surely we have. If we go back to the 10-year chart and zoom out to see the history here. Back in 2017, ACB had a ginormous run going from $30 all the way to $120 in less than a month. This was on the backbone of Canada legalizing weed nationwide. So again, seeing that big legislative news push these stocks in the right direction, and for only a short period of time, because once the momentum dies, this is the result. For a full list of every single pot stock that I'm watching, get into the clovertrading.io room. We post it in the Discord watchlist section. These are just the main runners. These are the ones that are pushing big volume. These are the ones that will be my sector gauge. How these are doing will kind of give me a reflection on the rest of the sector. And until the volume transfers otherwise, these are the two that will be predominantly on my watch list. But there are other low float, smaller market cap stocks we are watching in the weed sector. So get involved today and don't miss out on what could be a great opportunity for traders.